I think we've got everything working now. My name is Marley Tremmel.
I'm Abbie Clarke, and we're
Nice
both
to meet you.
we're both very interested in production design and costume design.
We're here with the CU Denver Student Film Club, and we would just thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to.
So I guess,
Recording in progress.
Oh. Thank you for remembering to do that. I guess in like this kind of film school environment, we see not a lot of people that want to go into production design, especially specifically costume design. So kind of how did you get into this industry? And is this something you always knew you wanted to do, or where did this start for you?
I didn't grow up in the internet age, and even though we had the Oscars and watched the Oscars sometimes, it really took like till I was in my 20s to understand that costume design was a profession. Which I know that sounds silly, but it's true. Like, I feel like it wasn't like I didn't know people that worked in the film industry. I didn't really think so much directors were not, not like the way that they are now. I feel like they're on the covers of magazines and stuff like that now. I think back then directors were maybe a little bit more behind the scenes, and Hollywood was not as out in the open. I don't know. So I didn't always know. I guess to answer your question, I did not always know that I wanted to be a costume designer. I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer. And then I kind of started to see that there was more ways in which one could express that. And then I wanted to be a costume designer. First, I thought styling and then costume designer.
What does the structure of the art department typically look like on a film, and what is your role in it specifically as a costume designer?
So the art department, it varies on the film, but I'll talk to you guys about Priscilla. So we built a lot of the sets on Priscilla. And a big part of that was just so that we could all be on stage, and also weren't going to shoot on location at the actual Graceland. So working in the art department, she is Tamara Deverell, and she managed to source the blueprints for Graceland, and she built our Graceland living room to scale, but she made the ceilings taller for Jacob Elordi. And I think it's like, the way that we work together is just kind of staying in tune with what each other is doing so that we can create a cohesive environment. But that's like everything from like the fabric on the couch to the fabric on the dress to the so it's a lot of things, to the smock they wear at the salon, to the color of the wallpaper. So we're just always in communication.
Sure. And how is that different, I guess, with a director that you have worked with on so many films compared to like coming into a new crew?
I just think there's a lot of trust with, when you've worked with somebody for a long time, and you start to understand each other with less communication. So I do have an understanding of what Sophia means when she says something, even if she doesn't use a lot of words. And I think that's helpful when you've worked with somebody a lot. And, it's not like you can't do that with people that you have not worked with a lot, but I think it's just establishing a kind of visual language is more difficult, or it takes time.
Are you typically working with the same art department crew as well when you work with the same director, like the same production designer, same makeup and hair?
This is the first time we've worked with Tamara Deverell. We used to work with Anne Roth, and she wasn't available to do Priscilla. She has a young daughter, and her husband, he wrote a book called Trust, which won the Pulitzer Prize this year. I'm going to sneeze, sorry. So she wasn't available because one of them needed to be home with the daughter. And we really needed somebody that was Canada-based, Toronto-based, and Tamara is amazing. She works with Guillermo del Toro, and she just is fantastic. She really is great. So we got lucky that we got her.
Great. And for Priscilla, like you were saying, what was the process like in like attempting to create the costumes for this character that was a real person? How much did you feel like you had to be historically accurate, and how much artistic liberty did you feel like you could take in these costumes?
I mean, Yeah, I think because our story takes place behind the scenes, it's about their private life, really. There was a lot of we were able to take a lot of creative license, so that was nice, and kind of interpret them more as characters as opposed to real life people. But we did try to keep the historic things historic. So I don't know, like those photographs that you've seen before with her in the lavender blouse and him in the blue suit, and their wedding and all that stuff, the baby being born, we tried to keep that fairly authentic.
Do you prefer doing costumes for fiction, or do you prefer it for the nonfiction historical films?
I think I preferred, well, I don't consider this a historical film. I like to have creativity. I feel like if you're trying to just like make everything exactly the way that it was, I think that's less fun. But we didn't, like, we had a little bit of that, but we didn't have so much of that.
How much of these costumes were like things you had to go out and find versus like things that you're creating and like actively designing?
I'd say just because of the nature of the story and the color palettes and all that stuff, we probably made 90% of the clothes.
On like a larger
And that's-
scale with some of the other projects you've worked on, I guess what has that like looked like? What does procurement look like versus creating and designing? And do you have a preference either way?
No, I mean, it's always fun to make stuff, I think, and also like nice. Yeah. So I would prefer you know, to make something as opposed to find it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it just depends. I think on period things, we end up making a lot of stuff because the clothes that exist are older, so they're like it's hard to kind of wear them all day. They're fragile, let's say. And when they're not, so they're stuff that somebody else has made, right? And then in a way, like it's just nicer to make your own, I guess. Because the fabrics, like we're not using those fabrics anymore. We don't have fabrics from the 1900s. You know, we're kind of using what exists, and I don't know. I just like I think visually everyone has different tastes. So what I think to me looks like those fabrics, somebody else thinks is different, I guess.
We just wanted to ask if you have any like specific costume designers or films that you feel like inspire your personal tastes or like anyone you try to emulate.
I like The Bad and the Beautiful. I think that's an amazing movie and beautiful costumes. I like the original Annie. I thought Poor Things was amazing. If you guys happen to see that. I liked the new Willy Wonka too, is very good.
So I wanted to ask you what your background is in film. What did you do leading up to it? What's your foundational experience?
Women's studies and sociology. And then I took some classes at FIT, so I don't really have a film background, which I'm sure was not what you were expecting to hear.
I guess if you didn't have a film background, how did you end up making that transition from fashion designer to costume designer?
So I studied women's studies and sociology in college, and then my last year, I kind of was like, I really would rather do fashion design. And I didn't do fashion design when I left high school. I really wanted to go to FIT, but this is a true story. I had a fight with my best friend who was going there, and then I didn't want to go to FIT. I was 18, so that was a choice that people make. I said, like, I'm not going there. I'm going to go to Hunter and study women's studies and sociology. So I did, but 4 years later, I was kind of like, well, I really want to do fashion. So then I went to FIT and I got a job working for Marc Jacobs at his store. And from there, I feel like I met these people that had all these other jobs in fashion. Like I met Alex White, who was a fashion stylist for W Magazine. And then when I left, I was her assistant for a little while. And I think it kind of opened my eyes to the idea that there was these other jobs within the fashion industry or that kind of utilized the same type of creativity. And then I don't know if you know who she is, Zoe Cassavetes. She's the daughter of John Cassavetes. She used to work next door to me at the Mercer Hotel, and she one day said, like, I'm gonna make my movie, and then when I make it, I want you to do the costumes. And then a few years passed, and I was styling, and she actually made her movie, and she asked me to do the costumes, and that was the first movie that I did. And then from there, I just really liked working in movies.
Do you still go back and forth at all? Do you ever work in fashion anymore, or just specifically costume design now?
I used to, but I don't anymore because I don't really feel like I have the infrastructure to work in fashion. It's like I don't know who the PR people are to borrow the clothes, to be a stylist. I don't have an assistant to like, I don't think people use messengers anymore. I don't know how to do it. But yes, I could do it, I suppose.
Do you have a favorite film that you've worked on?
I love The Beguiled.
Yeah. What about that? Sorry, what about that experience and like the final product of that film made it so much fun?
I love working with Kirsten Dunst, and I don't know, it was just fun. We didn't have a lot of money, so we all lived in the same house, and that was fun. I don't know, it's familial.
Where did you acquire most of the costumes for The Beguiled? Were you
We made
making
them.
them? Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Down to the corsets.
I read somewhere that for like those corsets specifically, you like tailored them to each actress, and like what was that process like trying to like use these undergarments, like these like historical undergarments in order to like fit modern people and like still keeping the silhouette the same, but like keeping it comfortable enough to be on set all day. Just yeah, what was the construction process like for the corsets?
I mean, they were still corsets, so I don't know how comfortable they were. But they had like soft kind of hand row camisoles on underneath them instead of like a stiff cotton thing. And I think it's helpful to make them for the body because like Nicole Kidman's quite tall and Kirsten's much shorter than her. So I think that kind of thing being custom made is great because it helps to kind of give that silhouette. And the clothes, really, the foundation garments are what make the clothes look, period. So I think that's a big deal.
What does your research process typically look like? Like before creating those costumes?
Yeah, it's pretty intensive. So it depends on the project, but for something like this, I'll go to the fabric library at the Met. They have a textile library, and I'll go there. I like to get inspired there and see what, everything looks like. And then from there, I usually, depends obviously on what the subject is, but then like I'll talk about Priscilla. I'll look at photos, obviously, of Elvis and Priscilla. I will get books about Elvis and Priscilla and look at those. And then on top of that, just kind of understanding the time. So like the 50s and the 60s, like sometimes I'll read articles in Time magazine or whatever, just to kind of, because times are different. Like it's not the same time. I didn't grow up in 1959, so I don't know what it means to be somebody living in 1959. And then I'll look at magazines and, pull references and all that sort of stuff.
And how much of that research process is you researching it, and how much is it you consulting like the director or the actor or like the rest of your team?
Everything I just told you is all me researching it. And then, yeah, this stuff, but everyone does their own research. Like I feel like Kaylee, she spoke to Priscilla a bunch, and I never read Elvis and Me because I just wanted to read Sophia's script and take what Sophia put in, so I feel like Kaylee, we all have different research, and then I think we bring that together.
You've also worked a lot in TV. What's the difference between creating some costumes for a TV show or maybe a couple episodes versus like an entire movie?
I have actually not done that much TV, but I don't know, TV moves a lot faster. And that can be daunting sometimes because you want to make a good product. And there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen on TV. So like you have executive producers and people want to approve things, and there's like a lot of approval, like stuff that I feel like you don't, on a film, it's really you and the director and the actor that are deciding what the costume is or the set or whatever.
What was a pivotal moment in your career that really changed your perspective on how you see the industry?
That's funny. I feel like I've been very lucky in my experiences in my career. And then not too long ago, like around COVID, just like after COVID, I had a job that have you guys heard of that book, What Makes Sammy Run?
No.
It's about Hollywood, but I just was surprised that I thought that I had never had that kind of experience, like a bad experience, really. Like I had experiences where like I didn't get along so well with one person or the other, but I didn't have any experiences where I felt like there was, I don't know, that were unsavory, I guess. And then I had a job that was really like, it was disconcertingly very like what you think of as kind of the gross part of old Hollywood. And that was shocking. So I don't know. I've been very lucky, I think.
Specifically within like your role in your department, what do you like see, what direction do you see the industry going in? Like what do you hope for the future? What do you expect the industry to look like once we start to get into it?
God, I don't know. I hope it still exists, number one. I think it will. Don't worry. I think people will continue to want to watch things. I don't know. That's a very tough question. I don't have a crystal ball. I think time will tell, but I think like everything in the world at the moment, there needs to be a bit of wealth distribution, and hopefully that can happen seamlessly instead of it happening with jobs getting lost. I don't know. That's a very tough question, but I hope it's better for you than it was for me.
What would be like your dream film to do costumes for if you could pick anything?
I like the ballet. I really would like to design costumes for the ballet one day.
For you, like personally, how do you find about like a work-life balance, and what does that look like?
Um, a work-life balance. I make pottery. And I don't know, my partner also works in the film industry. So I think I like my next job is in New York and his next job is in Toronto. And then after that job, his job is longer. His job is until July. So I'll just go to Toronto and hang out with the dog. And I think like that. And we play pickleball, and I have a lot of nice friends. And I do try to take time to, I don't know, make a point of living life and having work-life balance. And I have 2 stepkids who I like a lot.
What do you wish someone had told you when you first started working in the industry?
To believe in yourself more.
How do you measure your own personal and professional success?
You know what? I try to measure every single thing in my life based on whether or not I did it to the best of my ability. Like, and that, like, because I'm not a great pickleball player, but my partner really is like a Olympic athlete. He's so good. But I always think like, yeah, I'm never going to be as good as him. But if I played well to the best of my ability, then that's good. And I think that about work too, because really, if you rely on other people to give you validation, you will be in a yo-yo. Like one minute people love you, the next minute they don't, especially in Hollywood. So I think you have to be your own judge of what's successful. And for me, that's knowing that I did something to the best of my ability.
For something like Priscilla, what was your timeline like when creating costumes? Like, how much time did you have to prepare for that?
Not a lot. So we had a 30-day shoot, and we shot the movie in 30 days. We had an official 6-week prep. I think I had an extra week that I didn't have a team. And yeah, I mean, the like thing that I think saved us is that I had both Jacob and Kaylee's bodies scanned, and then we had these mannequins made. So when they were shooting or whatever, we were able to fit clothes on this mannequin, and also like that those mannequins like really helped to get the fit to like a place where it was like 90%, and they put it on and just like put in the zipper basically or whatever. So that helped, but it was insane. We were making clothes till the last second.
What did that timeline look like from like where you very first start working on development for the project versus like you're actually filming? Like, what's the first thing you kind of start working on, and how much time is there from the moment of development to actually being on set?
Well, yeah, 7 weeks in this case, and I think it varies. So I think the hair and makeup was a big thing on this. So we spent a lot of time together at the beginning because we both had to, make clothes and wigs and whatever. So we spent a lot of time at the beginning just coordinating, kind of like which looks coordinated with whatever. And then, so that was a big part, obviously just researching Elvis and Priscilla. We didn't have a working schedule early on. So also just like kind of getting started, but like even though like we kind of knew we'd be doing exteriors because it's going to get cold in Canada, so just kind of like trying to decipher what's exterior and just getting those things sorted first. It's always a juggle.
I think we're gonna take some audience questions now. Savannah, do you want to come down first again? First again.
How many people are in your film club?
Oh, I think in total, usually about 40 to 50. I think we only have about 30 here tonight.
Nice.
Finals week.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Savannah. It's super nice to meet you. My question was, what is your process when you're working with a director and producer to decide like the look and feel of the wardrobe in the film?
Yeah, I think it varies. So normally I just, depending on the director, like Sophia will make a mood board that's really about like tone and feeling of the movie. It's not costume specific or prescriptive in any way. It's not set specific. It's just like about the feel of the movie. And then from that, and like depending on the project, like I will make my own, mood board that is very costume specific, that, talks about what people wear and how that manifests. And then, I don't know, I'll do make color palettes based on the emotions or whatever. And then we just kind of go from there. I guess it's always a conversation because the actor also comes in and then plays the role. So they have to also feel confident.
Yeah. And then just a quick follow-up question that was kind of developed by me and my friend Katie, who would love to be here, but she's at work. But you've worked with Sofia Coppola on multiple films. What is it about a director that makes you want to work with them again? And what qualities do you look for / appreciate in a director?
I appreciate, well, first of all, I just want to say I really do love working with Sophia. She and I have worked together a bunch, and she's like a very nice person as much as she's an incredible director. So I think that's a real bonus. And for a costume designer, she's also somebody who cares about the costumes. And I think that too is really nice and important. So I would say the qualities I like best are good personality, clear-ish, like a clear understanding of what they're looking for. Like it's hard to work with someone who's not sure what they're looking for. And appreciation of costumes.
Thank you so much.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Rowan, do you want to come down?
Hi, Stacey. I'm Rowan. I'm a big fan of
Hi,
your work.
Rowan. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Congratulations on Priscilla again.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if looking back on your career, is there a moment that you found like maybe the most challenging? Is there a film that you found the most challenging? And then I guess how did you overcome that process? And maybe how does that apply to us as filmmakers more broadly?
All right, I don't know, this is kind of funny. So I'm about to work on a film with these same two directors. I worked, the second film I ever did, I just was like, I felt like it was torture. I didn't know. So I was very young and I didn't know that I could, I think it's also a female thing. So like I thought like if someone gives you $100 to design the costumes and says like you only have one person on the team, that's just what it is. Like you can't say you're asking for more than what you've given me affords. So I didn't know that I could do that. It's true. I feel like maybe it's feminine. So I think I just had a really hard time on that movie because the director was like, I don't know, it's not that shade of yellow, it's a different shade of yellow. Like, what other yellows? Can we dye something? Can we like, we had like $2. I feel like there was no money. And then I just was like always trying to figure out how to do it. And I hated that job so much. And I remember a friend of mine saying like, don't quit, just like you can do it, just finish it and then you'll be fine. And I did. And then I mean, as I grew up and started like working more and kind of seeing how things went, I started to understand that like you can say like you're asking, like there's only one of me, like that movie I had just me in it, PA. So I like we really had very few, like a super small budget. So I should have said, we've spent all the money, like there's no money left to do this. If you would like to do this, you have to find more money. But I didn't. I just took it on myself and it was not a nice experience. So I forgot the question. That was so
No,
challenging.
that's a great answer. I was gonna follow up like how would that apply to us as filmmakers more broadly, but I think that you answered that.
Yeah, I think it's just to know that like people expect a lot, but sometimes they don't understand that there's limitations. Like you have to find the balance between what are the resources and what is the desired outcome.
Thank you.
That's yeah.
And then we have Addison. Had a question all the way in the back.
While Athens coming up, Stacey, I wonder, is part of the mood board for Sofia Coppola a mixtape? Her soundtracks are so distinctive.
Hi, Addison.
Hi.
What do you think?
My question was that, like, I was wondering if in making Priscilla, did you have access to any of Priscilla Presley's like actual clothes or accessories or anything like that? And how much of that was, I guess it had to have been a big influence, but was any of it actually used?
No, I didn't have access to her closet or her real clothes, and I didn't use any of them. Unfortunately, we really were very conscious of not having everyone, reach out to her. So when we had questions like me or Tamara or anyone, they went through Sophia, and for me, like they also went through Kaylee a little bit.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
And then I think, Walter, did you want to come down and ask your question? I don't think she could hear you. Oh, sure. When Addison was walking down, Walter was just asking if the mood boards for Sophia include a mixtape, since a lot of her films rely so heavily on like the soundtrack, and that's such a big part of these characters.
No, but she does put songs in the script.
Oh, interesting.
So like I think Crimson and Clover was always in the script.
And how does that, I guess, like what do you take away from that? How much do you feel like those songs kind of influence the vibe you end up going for?
They influence it. So I think like like, that's what I'm trying to say about it's like not prescriptive, it's a mood board. I think that informs the mood of the movie, and then from that you are able to kind of put together the rest of it, I guess. Your part in it.
Thank you. Jack, do you want to? We have some more audience questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi, Stacey. I'm Jack. It's very nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you, Jack.
So, what I wanted to ask is, when you're costume designer film, how much of it happens the day of, and does it ever happen the day of? I mean, is everything is everything planned out ahead of time? You know exactly what everyone's going to wear.
Sometimes. So like, I guess if you like, sometimes there's really last minute casting, and it doesn't happen the day of, but it might happen the day before. I mean, I don't know. I guess some things happen the day of.
I mean, like, is there ever like a change in the set design or something that makes what you had planned impossible?
So yes, there's definitely things that happen, like where, like, you mean like they go to set and you're like, oh, I don't like that costume anymore now that you changed the wallpaper. Yes, that happens. Not as often, but sometimes, like I'd say maybe 10%, 5% or something.
Interesting.
I guess to kind of follow that, what do you do? I guess if you show up to set and they're like, well, you've changed the entire color palette, you need a new costume.
I feel like there's normally stuff, and you get like, it's not like there's only one costume and then there's no others. There's other stuff, and you become familiar with what you have, right? Like if you've been working with it and doing fittings and whatever, you can kind of be like, it's like it becomes your own closet. Like you can be like, I just get the purple shirt or whatever. Or we have to change the outfit. That happened, a few times on Priscilla, but really just because, she had crinolines, and then Philippe wanted them sitting on the couch, and I was like, we've got to take the crinoline out. You can't see her like face because the crinoline's too big, stuff like that.
How many costumes do you think for a project don't actually end up getting used then? Like, is there kind of like a back catalog that you make to pull from that we never see, or?
There is, and I think it depends. Like for Priscilla, we had very few extras because we didn't have a lot of money and not a lot of time. I think it just depends. And also, like, who you're working with. Like I know with Sophia, I'm pretty confident that whatever I choose, she's gonna like. So I don't feel as like there needs to be so many extras. Whereas if I feel like someone changes their mind all the time or is finicky, then there'll be more.
Do you ever make backups of the same costume? So like, for example, the purple outfit Priscilla wears or Kaylee wears, do you ever have to like make copies of that just in case?
Not for Priscilla. Well, actually one thing for Priscilla, but like on the Beguiled, for example, those nightgowns we made more than one of because they get bloody and, but yeah, for Priscilla, I made there's a green dress that she wears when they do LSD, and then she also wears it at some point when she's pregnant, and that was 2 separate dresses. One that fit over the baby bump and one that fit her normal.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Lyndon, do you want to?
Hello, I'm Lyndon. It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. I work a lot in like other departments like lighting and stuff, so I don't really know what goes into like the costuming. And so it's kind of a simple question, but like, what do like the deliverables that you do like actually look like? How do you know like within the process that you're like on the right track and you're like getting to the place that you want to be with your costumes?
And you mean just in terms of the costumes or the costumes with light?
I guess I sort of just meant in terms of the costumes in general, but if you have any insight on the lighting, that would be interesting too.
No, we do camera tests so that we see what things are looking like in the light that the cinematographer is setting, and I don't know what they look like. I think it just, it depends, I guess. I think there's always a moment where the thing clicks that you're like, okay, that's what, because you're working with somebody's body, it's not a space. So like I remember on the Beguiled, I took like a little bit of the crinoline out of Kirsten's the skirt because like it didn't look right. It didn't look right because she's busty. Sorry. And I feel like then the skirt was too full. So but it took a minute to figure out that we needed to take some of the volume out of the bottom of the skirt. And I remember like, yeah, there's just things that I think like you discover and then that informs the, I guess, I've never used the word deliverable.
So Stacey, I know that you have to go to a party in about 1 minute. So
Yeah.
would it be okay if we gathered everybody up and Stacey take a picture with the big U that's on the screen up here? We're gonna do a big group picture. All right.
My friend who's the designer of Daisy Jones' 6th birthday party.
Oh.
Wow, that's really cool. Actually, I love
You have to mute yourself so it doesn't.
Yeah, I follow her on Instagram. I love her. Yeah. Tell her we say happy birthday. Yeah, tell her we say happy birthday.
I will.
Okay, thank you so much, Stacey.
It was really nice to meet you all. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Bye.